Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times. It's Sunday, February 28, 2021. For today's editorial, confident of rebound despite challenges. Economic managers, along with others monitoring the country's pulse, remain confident of a healthy rebound this year. This is welcome news given that gross domestic product or GDP contracted 9% in 2020. Mainly because of the response against the coronavirus pandemic that has killed some 2.5 million people worldwide. At the Manila Times Economic Forum on Friday, Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III sees a GDP growth of between 6.5% and 7.5% this year, the same forecast that was announced earlier. Central Bank Governor Benjamin Diokno said inflation would be benign despite moves to ramp up consumer spending and the cost-push price increases seen recently. Former Finance Secretary Jose Isidro Camacho, now the Credit Suisse Asia Pacific Managing Director and Vice President in Singapore, pointed out that the Philippines stood to benefit from its inclusion in ASEAN, or Association of Southeast Asian Nations. That regional bloc, he added, was expected to grow 6% this year. And finally, Eduardo Francisco, BDO Capital and Investment Corporation President, said Philippine firms were generally healthy enough to weather the pandemic's effects. Regarding assumptions and caveats, for the most part, we agree with a rosy outlook, but as in any forecast, certain assumptions were made. There were also a few caveats mentioned by the forum speakers, particularly related to the COVID-19 vaccines, and the quality of recovery expected that policymakers and other national leaders should not ignore. First, Secretary Dominguez mentioned that Congress needed to pass as many as 14 pieces of legislation certified as priority because of their role in economic recovery. Among the priority bills is GUIDE, or Government Financial Institutions Unified Initiatives to Distressed Enterprises for Economic Recovery. Urgent amendments were also needed in the Foreign Investment Act, Public Service Act, and Retail Trade Liberalization Act. These, the Secretary added, would complement the country's participation in the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the largest multilateral trade agreement in the world. Whether Congress will buckle down to work on these proposals amid the distractions from the upcoming elections is yet to be seen. We should be vigilant against and intolerant of delays. Speaking of RCEP, Mr. Camacho was bullish about that multilateral agreement, but explained that the dividends from it would not be seen soon. Meanwhile, the government has to do better in acquiring COVID-19 vaccines. We agree. As we pointed out many times in this space, the Philippine economy is consumption-led. Personal spending accounts for about 70% of GDP, and so an economic recovery effort has to be anchored on easing the quarantine measures and bolstering consumer confidence by ensuring public health safety. The way to do that is to inoculate enough Filipinos to establish herd immunity. Regrettably, vaccines are proving to be difficult to acquire, a situation resulting from the perilous combination of global supply issues and poor administration of this health crisis. Worse, the slow vaccine rollout, which hopefully starts today, exacerbated the wealth gap, as well as the divide between the politically connected and others without similar connections. That matters, and not only because viruses do not discriminate according to income brackets and political camps. Of course, there is labor. Most workers will not qualify to be among those on the priority list of people to be inoculated. If workers remain unprotected from the virus, restarting industries will be a struggle. There are also small enterprises which are more vulnerable to the economic fallout. Micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, account for more than 96% of all registered firms in the country. MSMEs also employ 62.4% of the labor force, and they contribute 35.7% of the value added and 25% of export revenues. To be fair, the Duterte government's mantra is to heal as one. That sounds reassuring, but not everyone seems to be on the same page, so to speak. Instead, many seem more Darwinian. That is, survival of the fittest in terms of wealth and privilege. National leaders need to address these inequities if the rosy economic forecasts mentioned earlier are to be realized. And that's the editorial for Sunday, February 28, 2021. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print. Subscribe to our digital edition or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And listen to The Voice of the Times.